Trump furious after U.S. Supreme Court upends his global tariffs, imposes new 10% levy. Brazil's Lula says Maduro should be tried in Venezuela, not abroad. Trump meets Vietnam leader, vows to remove Hanoi from restricted lists. Trump pushes U.S. toward war with Iran as advisors urge focus on economy. U.S. President Donald Trump has reacted angrily to the Supreme Court's ruling that he exceeded his authority in imposing sweeping global tariffs. In a 6-3 decision, the court ruled that Trump did not have the legal power under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEEPA, to unilaterally set broad tariffs on imports. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote that the Constitution clearly gives Congress the authority to levy taxes and duties. Trump called the ruling ridiculous and sharply criticized individual justices, accusing them of lacking courage and suggesting, without evidence, that they had been influenced by foreign interests. Within hours of the decision, Trump signed an executive order repealing the tariffs that were struck down. He then announced a new 10% global tariff on most imported goods, invoking Section 122 of the Trade Act of 1974. That law allows temporary tariffs of up to 15% for 150 days to address serious balance of payments issues. The new tariffs will apply on top of existing duties, though certain items, including critical minerals, metals, and energy products, will be exempt. The court's ruling also raises questions about the roughly $175 billion in tariff revenue collected under the previous policy, as well as trade deals negotiated under the threat of higher tariffs. Markets initially surged following the decision, but gains narrowed as analysts warned that uncertainty around U.S. trade policy remains high. Despite the legal setback, Trump said he has numerous other ways to pursue tariffs and vowed to continue reshaping global trade policy. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva says ousted Venezuelan leader Nicolás Maduro should be tried in Venezuela, not abroad. Lula made the remarks in an interview during his visit to India, emphasizing that if Maduro is to face justice, it should occur under Venezuelan jurisdiction rather than in a foreign court. Maduro was seized from Caracas by U.S. forces earlier this year and taken to New York, where he faces charges accusing him of overseeing a cocaine trafficking network with international cartels. Lula argued that what matters most now is restoring democracy in Venezuela and that national sovereignty should take precedence. He said Brazil cannot accept another country capturing and trying a head of state abroad. The Brazilian leader also suggested that Brazilian citizens accused of crimes in the United States should be tried in Brazil, and that he plans to raise this issue in talks with U.S. President Donald Trump. Lula's comments reflect Brazil's broader stance against foreign intervention in Latin American affairs and underline ongoing tensions over the legal and diplomatic handling of Maduro's detention. Donald Trump met with Talem at the White House on Friday, marking their first formal in-person talks. According to a summary published by the Vietnamese government, President Trump said he would work to remove Vietnam from U.S. lists that restrict access to advanced American technology. The meeting came after Talem attended the inaugural session of the Board of Peace in Washington. It also followed the announcement of commercial agreements worth more than $30 billion. As part of those deals, Vietnamese airlines are set to purchase 90 aircraft from U.S. manufacturer Boeing. Meanwhile, President Trump announced a new 10% tariff on most imports from all countries. The move came shortly after the U.S. Supreme Court struck down some of his earlier, broader tariff measures. The talks signal an effort to deepen economic ties between Washington and Hanoi, even as U.S. trade policy continues to shift. Donald Trump is facing mounting political pressure as tensions with Iran escalate, even as advisors urge him to refocus on economic concerns ahead of the midterm elections. The president has ordered a significant U.S. military buildup in the Middle East and preparations for a possible multi-week air campaign against Iran. However, he has not publicly outlined detailed reasons for why the United States might enter a new major conflict. Foreign policy. and the potential use of military force has dominated the first 13 months of Trump's second term, often overshadowing domestic issues such as inflation and the cost of living, which polls show remain top priorities for voters. According to senior White House officials, there is not yet unified support within the administration for launching an attack on Iran. Some advisors are concerned that focusing too heavily on foreign conflict could distract from economic messaging ahead of November's elections. The midterms will determine whether Republicans retain control of Congress. Losing either chamber would significantly weaken Trump's ability to advance his agenda during the remainder of his presidency. Some Republican strategists warn that a prolonged war with Iran could carry political risks. Trump's political base has historically expressed skepticism toward extended foreign interventions, particularly after campaign promises to avoid so-called forever wars.